Okay, guys, so we're on to the last section. So the last section says to identify the conic section. So we're talking, is it a circle? Is it an ellipse? Is it a parabola? Or is it a hyperbola? All right, so we're going to be looking at these equations and identifying them. I'm going to take you through, first of all, the long process of doing it. And then I'm going to show you kind of the shortcut way that you don't have to go through the long process in identifying them. Okay, so first thing, what we're going to do for these is we're going to complete the square. All right, so we're going to go ahead and complete the square for each one. So I've got x's and y's, so I've got x squared. I'm going to have to complete the square twice, plus 8x plus y squared minus 6y equals negative 16. I bring that constant over. So then I'm going to do x squared plus 8x plus blank plus y squared minus 6y plus blank equals negative 16 plus blank plus blank. All right, so I take that middle number, I divide it by 2, 4, and then I square it. So I add 16 to this side, I add 16 to that side. Then I take this middle number, negative 6, I divide it by 2, negative 3, I square it, I get 9, I add 9 to this side, I add 9 to that side. So I get x plus 4 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 9. Okay, I'm going to divide everything by 9 so that it equals 1. So I get x plus 4 squared over 9 plus y minus 3 squared over 9 equals 1. All right. Now on to the next one. So I'm going to identify once I do these, a couple of these guys. So I'm going to do the first 4 to show you the long process. Then I'm going to show you the next couple, the shortcut way. All right, so I only have one squared, so I only have to complete the square for one of them. So it's going to be negative 2y squared minus 12y equals, I bring anything that doesn't have the squared, like the constant and the variable that's not squared, over to the other side. So I'm going to factor a negative 2 out, y squared plus 6y plus blank equals negative x plus 16 plus blank. So now we're going to take that 6 divided by 2, 3. I square it, that's 9. So I don't add 9, I add negative 18. So I've got negative 2 y plus 3 squared equals negative x minus 18. Okay. So I'm going to pause right there on that one. Okay, so for these ones, just to kind of recap, I'm going to go ahead up to the top and just kind of recap certain things. So for a hyperbola, we've got either x squared minus y squared over a and over b, or vice versa, right, equals 1. Or they can switch, just to kind of say that. For a parabola, it's going to be either x minus h squared equals 4p. Let me erase that. So 4p y minus k, or vice versa with the y minus k and the x minus h. And then for an ellipse, we've got x minus h squared plus y minus k squared all over equals 1. And then it's either a squared or b squared, depending. Those two can switch. Okay. And then we have a circle. So way back when, taking it all the way back to section 1.1, we had our circle was x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. All right, so the thing that was different is instead of it equaling 1, it equaled r squared. But if I divide everything by r squared so it equals 1, it would be x minus h squared over r squared plus y minus k squared over r squared equals 1. So now it kind of looks like our other conic sections that are not hyperbolas. Oh, sorry, that are not parabola. Okay, so now identifying. Here's the deal with identifying. We look and we see, all right, if only one thing is squared, it's going to be a parabola. If only one thing is squared, it's going to be a parabola. So I only completed the square once for number 6, so it's a parabola. Only one of the variables is squared, so it's a parabola. Okay, so that's relatively straightforward enough. So what I do is I always scroll through all of my work and I see, is there only one of them that's being squared? So if I look ahead and I look at the following ones that I did not do yet, I'm going to see, all right, squared, squared. Nope, not a parabola. Squared, squared. Nope, not a parabola. Squared, oh, there's only one thing that's being squared, so it's a parabola. I don't have to find the standard equation because it doesn't ask me to. It just says identify. So that's kind of my shortcut. All right, for 10, I have a squared squared, 11 squared squared, 12 squared squared, 13 squared squared, 14, it's just y squared. So it's a parabola. All right, so now on to the next two. We're going to go ahead and complete the square for those two and talk about how do we differentiate between those. All right, so same idea. I go ahead and I complete the square, but here's the trick with this one. See how it's minus between the two squareds? They have opposite signs. One's a positive 9, one's a negative 16. The only one of the remaining three, circle, ellipse, or hyperbola, that has a minus in between the squared is a hyperbola. So this one is a hyperbola. Oh, great. So I don't even have to do that one. So now when I look ahead and I see which ones have a subtraction or a differing sign between the two, they're going to be hyperbola. They have opposite signs, the squareds. All right, looking ahead. Okay, none of the other ones are. So now I'm left with ellipse or circle. Which one is it, an ellipse or a circle? So now I do one more completing the square, and this one I'm actually going to roll through the whole process. 9x squared plus 18x plus 4y squared minus 8y equals 131. I'm going to factor out the 9, so I get x squared plus 2x plus blank. I'm going to factor out the 4 plus 4, y squared minus 2y plus blank equals 131 plus blank plus blank. So I take that middle number, I divide by 2. I square it. I don't add 1, I add 9. I take that middle number, negative 2, I divide it by 2 is negative 1. I square it. I get 1. I don't add 1, I add 4. So I get 9x plus 1 squared plus 4 y minus 1 squared equals, and then that's 144. And then we divide every single thing by 144. All right, so we get my equation is, so 144 and 9, they simplify to x plus 1 squared over 16 plus, and then 144 divided and by 4 is going to be 36. Y minus 1 squared is up top, equals 1. All right, so now we've got these two equations here for number 5 and for number 6. Sorry, number 8. All right, so 5 and 8. We have to identify these as either a circle or an ellipse because we've already decided that it's not a parabola and it's not a hyperbola. So now we have to differentiate between these two. Now what we do with the ellipse and with the circle is we go to our center and then we count out how many and then up and down how many. So in this case, I would count to the center and then I would count right and left 3 and up and down 3. If I count the exact same right and left and up and down, it's going to have an equal distance from the center to the vertices, whether they're major or minor. There is no major or minor. Whoa, I'm throwing my pen. So if they're the same exact measurement, it's going to be a circle. If we count to the right and left 4 and up and down 6, that's going to be longer up and down, so it's going to be an ellipse. All right, so now here's the trick, what we need to do. Once we know that it's adding between the two, then we look at the coefficients in front of those x and y squareds. I look at the coefficients in front of those x and y squareds. If they're the same, it's going to be equidistant, so that's going to be a circle. If they're different, then it's going to be an ellipse. So now I can easily identify what they are by looking, all right, this is a plus. These have different coefficients, so it's going to be an ellipse. All right, this is a plus, so it's circle or ellipse. Because they have the same coefficient, it's going to be equidistant, so it's going to be circle. And now for the last one, number 13, we've got a plus, so it's either a circle or an ellipse. I look at the coefficients. Since they're the same, it's going to be equidistant, so it's going to be a circle. So there's our shortcut. We don't have to go through the process of doing the standard form for these. If I'm identifying, I can use kind of process of elimination and that type of analysis. All right, so I want you guys to try now exercises 57 through 72. You do not have to write it in standard form. All you have to do is classify. All right.